fellow Toastmasters. My name is Pintao. Today I'm very glad to be here and have the chance to give you not just the first, but also my last speech here. Tonight, I would like to share with you one of the most important moments in my life. I'm not a professional storyteller or a good public speaker, but I can promise you what I'm going to tell you are all true stories happening in my life. Instead of telling stories about myself, I prefer to talk about my dad, because he's one of the greatest people I know in my life. Without him, I wouldn't have grown up into the person I am. When I was little, I had a happy family, but the happiness doesn't last long. One day, my mom got very sick. She was sent to the emergency department in the hospital. After that, she never came out. She stayed in the hospital for years. My dad loved my mom so much that he spent all his money to save her life. However, the medical expenses were too expensive for him to pay if just relying on his regular job. So after his daily work, he took as many part-time jobs as he could. Most of the jobs he got required a lot of physical work, therefore were dangerous. But he didn't care too much. Clearly as I remember, one day at home, I took a closely look at his hands. There were lots of old and new scars all over his hands. Even though he worked so hard, we still had to borrow a lot of money from all our relatives, our friends, no matter they were close to us or not. Finally, we used up all the money we could borrow from my mom. Some of his friends and relatives even suggested him giving up, because the doctor told us even we kept using the most expensive drugs to keep her alive, my mom could live no longer than a year. But he didn't give up. He was begging doctor to keep my mom staying in the hospital and give her the best treatment. He even kneeled in front of the doctor. Even though I was just 8, I could still remember clearly that the tears in his eyes. He was a strong person. I can imagine how hard it was for him to keep not tearing in public, how hard it was for him to give up his dignity and beg for help. However, he just did everything he could, just because he chose to, just because he wanted to save his wife, one of the beloved person in his entire life. However, sometimes life can treat you really cruelly. Sadly, my mom passed away. It was the first time I saw my dad cry out loud. He was so sad. That is not the end yet. After my mom died, every one of our relatives told my dad that in such a broken family, with such a big debt to repay, he wouldn't be able to raise me anymore. So they asked my dad to give me to them. But my dad refused. He told them firmly, no matter how hard it would be in the future, he would make sure that I would be able to grow up as any other kid did. And he made it. I grew up into a good person. I got into one of the best universities in China, and then the graduate school. That's also why I'm able to stand here tonight to give this speech. Well, it might not be counted as speech, but my instinct told me that it would work, because this is all about my dad, who is such a great person, a great husband, most importantly, a great dad. Well, what I have just told you is sad, but we do have a happy ending. Now I'm going to graduate as a PhD, and the next year I'm going to England to start my postdoc job. And my dad is happily waiting for me at home. That's why I mentioned before, this will be my first as well as the last speech here. I will never forget what he has done for my mom, for me, for the family. I will never forget how inspiring his life is. What I've learned most clearly is never give up to what life brings to you. As long as you can fight, just fight. Fight for love and fight hard. Thanks.